Are you feeling just completely and totally exhausted and drained? And you're wondering why? I mean, you just started taking some new supplements. Maybe you're even getting exercise, eating the right things, and getting more than enough sleep. Why are you so stinking tired? Well, I'm going to suggest to you that perhaps it is your doubt and your anxiety over the fear of something not working. And I don't even want to use the word fear because you're going to see in a minute how fear and anxiety are two totally different things. I was recently reading Myron Golden's book, Boss Moves, and boy, oh boy, is this book a good one. I'll tell you. But I want to read a little excerpt from here and then kind of expound upon it. So, he says in his book, Boss Moves, anticipation is a feeling that empowers action. It is a feeling that infuses energy. He asks if you can remember when you were a little child on Christmas and that feeling that you get, that anticipation for the next day. Maybe you even knew what you were getting, or it was just the anticipation of knowing you were getting some really cool stuff, right? You found it nearly impossible to go to sleep. Why? Because your expectation and the anticipation of the next day and what you might get, what kind of experience you were going to have, charged you up so much you couldn't sleep. Have you ever had a business idea or a ministry idea or some kind of inspiration that really just got the juices flowing, the gears turning, and you started working on it? And before you knew, hours and hours went by. Where did that time go? You got so infused by that idea and your anticipation of that thing working that the time just disappeared. Now, on the other side of this belief, you have doubt. That is the opposite of this anticipation, right? Doubt manifests as a feeling of anxiety in your heart. When you have a feeling of anxiety, it is paralyzing, it is crippling. You feel completely and totally at a standstill because the survival part of your brain and everything in you is like, let's not waste our energy on this. Let's not waste our resources and our time and all these other things on this venture because what if it doesn't work? I'll have wasted so much time, so much money, so much brain power. I missed so much time with my family over this. What are people going to say? They're going to say, I knew you couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. Why did I even bother, even trying this to begin with? So many things in our mind is just going 1,000 miles an hour. And that anxiety is exhausting. Well, he says anxiety is the thief of your dreams. Everything in your life that you desire, everything, anything that you've been working towards that you don't have right now, you don't have because of anxiety. People say, but I have a fear of failure. You don't have a fear of failure. You have anxiety over failure, Myron says. They are not the same thing. They feel similar, but they're not the same. The reason that anxiety and fear are not the same is that fear is caution over a very real and present danger, whereas anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. Do you see? Fear is over real, anxiety is over something that you're imagining, something that doesn't even exist and very well might not even happen. Another part of this text here says, you're so worried about, something not working that you don't even start the venture. Worrying about it makes it not work because you won't work on it. You have to learn to overcome anxiety. Anxiety is the thief of your dreams, right? It often it is often the result of asking the wrong questions. So, one thing that he says that I think is so funny, I just like how he has these little like sayings that he does. I guess they're called sound bites. And he says that the reason that you're stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck, I just thought that was so funny is you're asking the question, what if it doesn't work? That's a terrible question. It can only have a terrible answer. Here's what you don't understand. Ask and you shall receive. Is that not biblical? It really is. So, if you're asking the wrong question, you're going to receive the wrong answer. A much better question you could ask is, how awesome is this going to be when it works? Asking better questions is going to start creating anticipation instead of anxiety. And this kind of reminds me of the one of the challenges I was doing recently online. And it's a concept I've heard before. I believe, I can't even remember honestly where I heard it before, but So a lot of people, it might have been, it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad, I believe. Yeah, it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book I read a while ago. And he says that poor people, people in poverty, they say, I can't afford that, right? If they see something that they really want, really desire to have. But wealthy people, they say, how can I afford that? Do you see how that not only changes the question and the potential answer, but it's just flipping the entire script in your head, right? So saying I can't afford that, you're giving this negative, you're giving your this negative thought over to your brain, right? You're creating this negative space, and we know from scientific research that thoughts create physical matter in the brain. Did you know that? There's a book by Dr. Caroline Leaf, I believe her name is, and she has a lot of research, and there's a lot of research out there by various people, and really renowned scientists, Harvard, all these big places. Thoughts create physical matter, and if you're giving a thought like I can't afford this over to your brain, you're creating all of this negative matter that is literally defeating you. That's terrible. Do you want to think that? Do you want to go up to someone you love? Think about, your child or your parent or your best friend, your spouse, whatever. Would you go up to them and say, you can't afford that? You'll never be able to afford that. Like, why would you say that to someone, right? So, why would you say that and put that thought in your mind and create that physical matter? A better thought, a way to flip the script, and now you're putting this positive what if anticipation thought in your mind. How can I afford that? And not only does that give you this positive light to build off of, you're now getting the gears turning, right? Because you're asking a question for one. It's not a statement, it's a question, and it's a positive question. And it's going to get the gears turning, and it's going to activate something in your brain called the reticular activating system. And I don't know if you've heard me talk about this before, but this it was is one of my all-time favorite concepts. I talk about this in my book, and I love learning all things about the brain and how wonderful it is. God made our brains beautiful. And one of the things he gave us is the reticular activating system. And, science gave it this term, of course, but it's basically, you're going to notice what you're focused on, what you're thinking about. Your brain gives priority to certain things because we have so many things that go through our lives each day, that come across our path, that go through our minds, sensory things that we touch, that smell, hear, taste, all these things that we're encountering, and we can't possibly, you know, process them all consciously. So a lot of it is going on the back burner or subconscious, just it's being processed, but not in the forefront of our minds. And so our reticular activating system is picking up things that are the most important to us, things that we are already focused on, things that we tell it are important. So, for example, there's this vehicle that I really want. And, don't judge me. Don't judge me here, but there's this car that I want, and it's a fairly new car. I'm not gonna talk too much about it here, but I know that I'm going to get that vehicle very, very soon. And one of the reasons is just because I am moving towards that, right? I have my goals aligned towards that. I know what I want. I have it. I see it clearly. I'm working towards that. I'm putting all this value out there. But, anyways, I see that car everywhere, and I haven't seen the color that I want yet, thankfully, because I would get a little jealous, low key. Like, even though that's not, don't be jealous, but I would be so sad if I saw that car driving down the road because I'd be like, that's supposed to be my car. But when you are thinking about something, you see more of it. Like, has that ever happened to you? It's kind of freaky, right? And it's not that this car didn't already exist on the road. This car has been out for a couple years now. But it's that I'm thinking about it now, so I'm looking for it. My brain is looking for it. Think about it this way. If I said to you, okay, so just you're in your room right now, you're in your car, wherever you're at, as long as you're not driving, you can do this. Don't do this if you're driving, please. Wait until you pull over. I want you to look around the room right now where you're at, wherever you're at, and I want you to find everything and anything that is red, okay? So look around the room, find anything and everything that is red. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. Start now, and I just want you to look around, think of everything that is red. So just try to remember it. It's not, you're not going to win a prize or anything. So take a look and see anything and everything that is red in your environment right now. All right, so now I want you to close your eyes. Your eyes closed, don't cheat. I can see you. I can't see you, I'm just joking, but close your eyes. And I want you to remember everything that you saw that was red. Actually, no, stop for a second. Don't open your eyes. What did you see that was blue? Now, if you're really familiar with your surroundings, you could probably tell me, like, oh, I have a blue shirt on, simple, or I have a bag that's blue. No, what did you literally physically just see when you were looking around for red objects that was blue? You probably can't name a single thing, right? Why is that? Because you were looking for red. Now, you probably could tell me some things that you saw that were maroon or like a dark pinkish borderline red, right? Because you were kind of like grasping at straws here. You were trying to find everything that was red. But why is that? That's because you were looking for red. We see what we look for. And we also have what's called a scotoma. It's a blind spot. And we don't see things that we're not looking for, right? So it's very interesting. And all that to say, like we are very very much our mind is going to determine so much about our lives and the way it turns out. And, those in the woo-woo, new agey community would have you think that, it's some type of manifestation, attraction, law of attraction, all these things. And I don't buy it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a born again Christian, and that is what it is. But I believe what the Bible says, and the Bible says that the tongue has the power of life and death. The power of life and death is in the tongue. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive, seek, knock, and the door shall be open. Like, there's so much in the Bible that it's funny because the enemy will use these new agey principles and he'll take this truth that the Bible has and he'll add in just these little pieces of lies like, oh yeah, the universe will give it to you or whatever, right? But no, these things come from God, but these things are very real. God is very clear, right? And he's not like a genie in a bottle. We can't just be like, oh, I want $1 million. Snap, here it is, right? But there's a process to these things. And if we are living our life according to God's will, and He clearly gave us a calling or something on our heart, I believe that He's going to see that through as long as we do our part, right? We plant the seeds. God is going to do the watering and well, we might have to do some of the watering, but He's going to do the responsibility of growing that seed up, right? Because there's literally nothing we can do to make a seed grow. If we're thinking like a physical seed in a garden, right? Plant that seed in the ground. We can water it. We can make sure it has enough sunlight, right conditions in the weather. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's happening under that soil, right? God is the one that is causing that seed to sprout roots down and to start growing upwards, right? And to grow into whatever it is destined to be. So we just have to take the first step and we have to get that anxiety, that anxiety over what if this doesn't work out, and just get rid of that. That is not from God. That is from the enemy of your soul. And what does he do? The devil, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and that is all he comes to do. And he is the biggest killer of dreams. He is the biggest stealer of visions, and he is the biggest destroyer of callings and ministries and legacies. And you cannot let that happen to your family. If you are here, you are the one. You are the one, like Ed Milet talks about. If you don't know that, go listen to that on YouTube right now. It is like 3 minutes that will absolutely fire you up. You are the one in your family, and you are the one that is going to make a difference, that is going to leave a legacy, that is going to change the world. Someone, I forget who it is now, but oh man, I'm not going to remember any names. I got to get better at this. But he says that, I think, is it Zig Ziglar? I can't remember now. But the saying, nevertheless, is those who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world actually do. And that is us. I will take that crazy label any day, okay? All right, well, I'm getting all emotional over here, so I'm going to end this podcast on that note. But listen to me. You need to keep that anticipation. What if this works out? How great is it going to be when this works out? I know that this is going to work out for you, friend, and I am so glad you were here. I'm so thankful that you spent 15 minutes of your precious time with me. If you know a mama that this would bless, please share it with her. And until the next podcast episode, have a wonderful day. God bless.